What would I be thinking at that age as a kid? My mum doesn't love me, my dad doesn't love me, violence is the thing.
I spent 26 years in prison.
Yep.
My whole childhood was incarcerated from the age of 9 to 18, and my first jail lagging was in 1991. And then I've made the rounds of all the prisons. I went down here in Perth, anyway, Kazza, Bunbury, Carnet, Warraloo. Where everything started going wrong was when I was probably 6 or 7. And I wake up in the morning and all I could hear was screaming and yelling. And as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old kid, I could actually remember it. And we're on a 2-storey place. I walked out to the bedroom and I seen Dad going down the stairs and Mum just threw this pot, like a cooking pot at the back of Dad's head. And for me, that was where all life started going skew-whiff. He used to just grab her by the hair and I'd walk out in the lounge room at 3 o'clock in the morning and all the screaming had stopped. I had my brothers and sisters hid under the bed, but I'd walk out in the lounge room and Mum would be sitting on the end of the lounge and her face would be matted in blood, 2 black eyes, her false teeth would be smashed in half, and she'd be sitting on the lounge like that with super glue trying to glue her teeth back together. She doesn't love you, she loves this man or the alcohol more than she loves you. And I remember thinking as an 8-year-old kid, yeah, stuff her. She loves him more than she loves me. If she loved me, I wouldn't have been molested, I wouldn't have been in all these children's homes. You can either go with your dad or you go in a Longmore. And I didn't realise Longmore was a boys' prison, and I heard this voice again, it said, he doesn't love you. He loves the babysitter more than he loves you, because it turned out that he ended up running off with a babysitter. And I remember pulling up at the gates, 9-year-old kid, and I tell you what, my heart, mate, was going 400 mile an hour. I've never been so scared in my life. And I walked up to these big bars, this prison officer come down with all his keys, and I went through the gates, and I looked back, and there's Dad walking back to the car, and with the babysitter in the front, the passenger seat, or his wife. And they took me into the prison. They took me into the prison, and they stripped me naked.
Yep.
They put neck cream on my hair, crab cream on my nuts, and they gave me 6 comic books. And I'm getting put in prison just because I want my mum and my dad.
Yeah.
I hit the brick wall. I was at the bottom of myself. I had no one to ring, but I had a thought in my head, I can't do this anymore. I want to change.
The I Catch Killers podcast was a fresh start for me, as I left policing behind and started a new life. Over the years, we've laughed together, cried, and shared some powerful moments. Welcome to I Catch Killers. Welcome to another episode of I Catch Killers. Now, I normally prepare the introduction for the guests when they come on I Catch Killers, but I've decided to do something a little bit different today. Today's guest is Peter Lyndon James, and this is how he's described on a website. After 26 years as an addict, drug dealer and criminal, Peter turned his life around to create Australia's largest and toughest rehab, housing over 150 residents at no cost to the community. Peter has upended everything we know about addiction and rehab. The only thing I could probably add to that is that he spent 26 years in prison. And it wasn't just prison behind the gates. It was his own prison. His addiction kept coming back in and out of jail, and he saw himself as being in prison for 26 years. This is going to be an interesting chat, and I'm looking forward to speaking to Peter Lyndon James on I Catch Killers. Peter Lyndon James, welcome to I Catch Killers.
Yeah, g'day, Gary. It's good to be here.
Well, it's good to sit down and have a chat with you. I've had quite a few people drop your name and the work that you're doing at Shalom House, and quite impressive. So a lot of people have been pointing me in that direction, and so the work you're doing over there is reaching the east coast of the country, because you're over in Perth. Yeah,
it's good, isn't it? Getting around.
Well, you're doing something that's making a difference, so you should be proud of yourself and happy that the reputation's travelling. Now,
yeah, thank you.
In prepping for this chat with you, I got to say you've certainly had an interesting life.
Yeah, you could say that. A bit of variety, yeah.
Yeah, variety. Incarcerated, addictions, crime, time in prison, all sorts of things, and here you are turning your life around. Did you think you would make it this far at the low point in your life? Like, what goes through your mind when you're going in and out of jail, you're addicted, and you're a habitual offender and addict, basically?
Yeah, well, mate, to tell you the truth, I don't look ahead. I just try now to just get up to be the best me I can be. And my whole life I just wanted to be a geek, normal person.
Yep.
And just doing normal stuff, and I want my life to matter. And but unfortunately, because of the way they grew up and what I went through, I grew up on the wrong side of the fence doing stuff that I didn't want to do, but sort of the cards that were dealt.
Yeah. So even at those low points in your life, you were just still looking, I want to get out of this life, but I'll just get through the day and we'll worry about it the next day. Is that the sort of way you rolled?
Yeah, just day by day, just whatever came. Just accepted who I was, what I did. Like most people, you just accept it and think it's going to be a lot until you hit the brick wall and then sort of recalibrate and just do it again and again. It's like Groundhog Day, just doing what you don't want to do, and it's sort of just your life follows you.
Yeah, you're a slave to it. Well, you have been quoted somewhere. I just read this quote out because it's pretty heavy, but it sort of gives an insight. I hated who I was, what I stood for. I hated everything that I'd become, but I didn't know who I was. That's confronting and sad on a lot of different fronts, but that how you felt.
That's how I felt from probably the age of 8 onwards, mate. Just the whole life, just hated my soul, what I stood for, what I did, how I smelt, people I hurt, the life I lived, family, you name it.
You carry a lot, don't you? Well, look, here you've turned your life around, and there's something, and we want to talk about that. And now you're the CEO, and you actually established it, the Shalom House, and it's been described as Australia's strictest rehabilitation centre, where you employ a tough love approach that has seen Shalom become the most successful rehab centre in Australia. That's something to be proud of.
Yeah, I am. I love my staff, love my residents. I'm really proud of all the effort they've put in. It's taken a lot over probably the last 13, 14 years to establish the culture. And now it's not one person carrying it, it's all of us who carry it.
It's nice when you set something up that's worthwhile and you create that lineage, isn't it? Where people are, it's not all to you. You've passed on the torch, and people are out actually doing it with you now.
Yeah, right from day dot. I learn it, I teach it, I delegate it, I let go, and it's just I want it to run not because of me, but in spite of me. So if I get hit by a truck tomorrow, it'll just keep going. It's definitely laid on a good solid foundation.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty good insight into running anything or doing anything, is it? That you create it to the situation where you set it up so it doesn't need you. That's a perfect thing.
Yeah.
We're going to talk. We're going to talk in great deal about what you're doing at Shalom House, because I think it's fascinating, and to give people an insight into why it is so successful and why people are coming there and knocking on the door to get in because of the reputation. But before we do, I want to talk about your upbringing, get a sense of where you've come from, because I think people are, it's one thing to say, this is my life now, look how successful I am, but people have got to understand where you came from, because it's your life experiences that have got you to this point. So tell us about your upbringing.
Well, 90% of the people that we actually help, the root cause of why they are like they are is actually childhood trauma. Lockridge, which is in Perth, is a bit like the Bronx type stuff. I grew up in Lockridge, so I'm second eldest of 5 kids. I've got an older sister, 2 younger brothers and a younger sister. Lockridge, Scanlon Way, where everything started going wrong was when I was probably 6 or 7. My dad actually went out with my mum and had a babysitter stay over the night and looked after us 5 kids. And I come back, and they come back, and I wake up in the morning, and all I could hear was screaming and yelling. And as a 5-year-old, 6-year-old kid, I could actually remember it. But we're on a 2-story place. I walked out in the bedroom, and I seen Dad going down the stairs, and Mum just threw this pot, like a cooking pot, at the back of Dad's head. And for me, that was where all life started going skew-whiff. So I'm a 6-year-old kid. Dad's moved out of home, moved into a motel, and my mum, she started drinking lots. And I remember the repossession people coming through after Dad moved out. They took our TV, lounge, fridge, because Mum couldn't afford the payments. And our quality of life kept going down. But as a kid, all I can remember was Mum throwing the pot. When I was going to school, Lockridge Primary School, I'd pull in the Eden Hill pub where Dad was staying at the motel. And on the way to school, I'd say, Dad, do you want something from the shops? He'd give me $10 and say, get us a packet of fags and a loaf of bread. And so I'd go down the shop, give him that, and he said, I keep the change. And I really loved my dad. I was really close to my dad.
Yeah.
He was a mechanic, diesel mechanic. And I'd done that for like 3-4 weeks. And one day I went and knocked on the motel, and no one was there. And so I went to get on my push bike right off, and the gardener was in the car park. And I said to him, have you seen my dad? And he goes, oh, your dad doesn't live anymore. He's moved up north. And when he said that, I just broke down and cried. I can remember it clear as day. I just felt that he abandoned me. And from then onwards, life just went crap, mate. Mum started moving from house to house. I went from school to school. And by the time I was 8, I'd been to like 7 different schools. She started drinking lots, abusing alcohol. One in particular fella that she was with, he used to just grab her by the hair, and I'd walk out in the lounge room at 3 o'clock in the morning, and all the screaming had stopped. I had my brothers and sisters hid under the bed, but I'd walk out in the lounge room, and Mum be sitting on the end of the lounge, and her face would be matted in blood, 2 black eyes, her false teeth would be smashed in half, and she'd be sitting on the lounge like that, with super glue trying to glue her teeth back together. The alcohol, no food in the cupboards. Every school you go to, you hide behind the library, and because other kids would pick on you. You never had a fixed group of friends, never had school clothes like other kids. I was going through all this stuff as a young kid, and I should have been subjected to it. But eventually, Mum ended up going to a rehab, and my brothers and sisters went to my grandma, and I tried to stay with my mum. So Gavin, Judy, Gavin, Sheree and Graham went to grandma's. My sister went to her best friend's, and I went into Wansley Children's Home and then into foster care near Mum at the rehab. And then when she got out of the rehab, all she did was drink and spend time with this bloke. And I met some young kid in the caravan park, and it's become mates. And one night I said, Mum, can I stay with my mate's caravan? He goes, yeah. And then I stayed at my mate's caravan, and I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and my mate's uncle was giving me oral sex. And I'm laying there frozen solid, and I'm an 8-year-old kid. And this bloke was doing stuff to me, and I had to pretend I was asleep. And the reason I share that is that's one of the root causes of why I was like I was. And I remember getting up in the morning and walked out of the caravan park, and I heard a voice, and it says, tell your mum. And then I heard another voice, and stuff her. She doesn't love you. She loves this man or the alcohol more than she loves you. And I remember thinking as an 8-year-old kid, yeah, stuff her. She loves him more than she loves me. If she loved me, I wouldn't have been molested. I wouldn't have been in all these children's homes. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have been all these different schools. And so from the age of 8, I literally hated her guts. And every chance I could, I just ran away. I'd run away from her, sleep under my mate's floorboards. If it wasn't in that, I was in Good Samaritan bins. I was living on the streets. From the age of 8, age of 9, they put me into another children's home here in Perth called Parkville Children's Home. I spent 3 stints in there. From the age of 9, I used to run away, back up there for 2 weeks, run away again. The third time they caught me from the run away from Parky, I was sleeping in the Good Samaritan bin at the Middle Gate Shopping Centre. And I remember waking up in the morning, 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, with the coppers with a big torchlight on my head. And so they took me back up to Parkville. So I hadn't seen my dad since he took off when I was 6. I'm now 9. They took me out to Parkville Children's Homes, and I walked into this room, right? And I had my dad sitting on the right, and I had the counsellor sitting on the left. And again, I remember this as clear as day. And she said, listen, Peter, you obviously don't want to be here. You're wasting our time and our resources. You can either go with your dad or you're going to Longmore. And I didn't realise Longmore was a boys' prison, like with bars and all that sort of stuff, actual prison. But I looked at my dad, and I heard this voice again. It said, he doesn't love you. He loves the babysitter more than he loves you, because it turned out that he ended up running off with a babysitter, had 2 kids with her, and went out to Marble Bar. That's where he'd been for the last 3 years. But I looked at my dad, and I heard this voice, he doesn't love you. And I said to this chick, I go to Longmore. And then I heard this voice, you're making a mistake. And then I heard this other voice, nah, stuff him. Stuff him, make him pay for what he's doing to you, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so my dad was the one that drove me to Longmore 11 o'clock at night. And I remember pulling up at the gates, 9-year-old kid. And I tell you what, my heart, mate, was going 400 mile an hour. I've never been so scared in my life. And I walked up to these big bars, this prison officer come down with all his keys. And I went through the gates, and I looked back, and there's Dad walking back to the car, and with the babysitter in the front in the passenger seat, or his wife. And they took me into the prison. They took me into the prison, and and they stripped me naked. Yep. They put neck cream on my hair, crab cream on my nuts, and they gave me 6 comic books and a heap of toiletry items. And they marched me down these row of prison cells. And there's like 9 cells to the left, 9 cells to the right. I'm getting put in prison just because I want my mum and my dad. Yeah. I've done nothing wrong. And I remember when they marched me down, about 6 cell on the left-hand side, I opened the door, pushed me in the slot, and they bolted the door shut. I remember chucking me comic books and me crap on the steel bench, jumping on the bed, just grabbed a hold of my pillow, started bawling my eyes out, crying, saying, if you let me out now, I'll behave. I won't run away again. That experience of getting put in a prison as a 9-year-old kid scared the living crap out of me. I'm rocking side to side, and I heard a voice in my cell again. I'm going to refer to a voice quite often, but I heard a voice in my cell, And they said, Peter, from this day forward, you're going to have to look after yourself. And so I made a vow that from this day forward, I'm going to look after myself. When I get stressed now, I'm a 54-year-old fellow soon, but I cuddle my pillow to get to sleep every night, you know. I woke up the next day and we clean your cell out, mop your floor, stand by yourself at the door for cell inspection, shirts tucked in, hands behind your back, no talking. So I'm sitting there in this prison cell with all these other kids and do the inspection. I end up spending 3 months in Longmore. But that 3 months in Longmore was the first time that I ever found I had a home.
Yep.
All those other kids there's about 140 of them, 130 of them, but they all had stories like mine, that mum had run off with a man or dad had run off with a woman, and they were just like, I mean, all they wanted was a mum and dad, normal, but because of the life that their parents had lived, they were wearing the consequences of their parents' choices.
Peter,
and so I spent...
Yeah, I just unpacked that story, and I haven't interrupted you because it's just it's heavy, mate. It's that's a sad story, and my heart goes out for you. And I'm looking at you, seeing you as a big tough man, but I'm looking at this young kid that life dealt you some shit cards. But isn't it?
Yeah, wasn't it good?
Just how these things happen, these sliding door moments, and just one person's life is just forever stuffed up. I'm sitting here and I've heard a lot of stories on eye catch killers, and a lot of people have been down some tough paths. But Peter, the way that you told that really took me there, and thinking, what would I be thinking at that age as a kid? What would be going through my head? Like, my mum doesn't love me, my dad doesn't love me, violence is the thing. You go to a place where you feel a little bit more secure, you're sexually assaulted, then you get locked up in a prison. And it's a prison. Call it juvenile, whatever. It's a prison. You're not allowed out.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
You haven't done anything wrong. You're just trying to look after yourself. Like, fuck me. I do not know how people come through that and the stuff that you must carry from that. We all carry some sort of childhood trauma. But, full credit to you that you can sit here and talk about it and you survived that. I just want to get a sense, like you're in and out from the age of 9 into those detention centres, juvenile detention centres. Does it tell me how you think when you're in there, because I would imagine you'd be thinking, I'm just a worthless piece of shit, nobody cares about me, this is, and you become a self-fulfilling prophecy, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, in jail, you've got a projected image that people perceive to fit in with where you are. You've got to adapt to the culture. But what's normal in prison isn't what's normal outside. And prisons don't actually make you better, they make you worse. And so when you get out of prison, even though you're out of prison, you're still in prison. You can take the prisoner out of prison, but then you've got to get the prisoner out of the prisoner.
Yep.
And so all jail did, for me, I was just institutionalised. If I wasn't locked up, I'd be living on the streets. But I thought I was a weed, that I wasn't good enough, I didn't belong. No one loved me, mum and dad. I was just a mess, mate. And then the stuff I spent 7 years in Longmore, 2 years in Riverbank. When I wasn't locked up, I'd live on the streets. I was a street kid in Perth from 1979 to 1988. When I was in jail, mate, I was on the streets doing a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have done.
Well, I look at your life, Peter. Who do you have as a role model there? Like, who's your role model? As a kid, you're looking for role models. You're looking for someone that I want to follow that person, or I want that person to help me in life. Who is your role model?
Now and again, I've come across a couple of geek fellas, older fellas that they just feel like they're your dad.
Yep.
And I get that with Chris Dawson. I met Chris Dawson, is West Australian governor at the moment, but I met him a fair few years back.
Former cop, Chris Dawson.
Yeah, former cop. Yeah, he was the police commissioner, and then now he's governor. But I really related to him. Every time I sat down and have a yarn with him and unpack, he felt like my dad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so there's a few blokes like that that's come across my path since I've been like semi-normal.
Yeah.
That I can download to, but otherwise, I've got 160 residents and all these staff, so I don't really have time to look up. I'm just focusing on what's on below me.
Yeah. Hey, I ask you this question: do you think if at that stage, and you know the nature of the person that you are or whatever, do you think if there was one person in your life, say it was an uncle, an auntie, just someone that could have helped you and steered you through, do you think your life would have been completely different?
Nah, I don't actually. Reason being is that I was full of unforgiveness. And having unforgiveness in you is like swallowing rat poison and expecting the other person to die.
Yeah.
And I believe that all my actions and everything that I done was paying them back, but it was actually hurting me. So I hated my mum, I hated my dad, and I made sure that I made whatever decisions that I could to have a negative effect on them. And the absence of having mum and dad, I mean, I've never played sports. The one thing I did with sports is, I've never played sports. I've never been on a family holiday. I've never been able to run up the corridor and jump into bed with mum and dad for a cuddle.
Yeah.
I mean, no one taught me how to lift a toilet seat to do a piss. You know what I mean? I was just angry, blamed everybody else. And no matter who it was that tried to help me, my grandma, I took off. My uncle, I took off. My other grandma, I just took off. I just want my mum and my dad. There was no substitute.
Yeah. Is that like almost survival to the anger that you hate the world? And
yeah, you hate the world, and you look at drugs and substances to cover it out, and you try to have a good time and trying to find a substitute for what you never had, and I never found it.
Talk us about the drugs. How you're living the life of crime. I want to talk about your crime, but just talk us about the creep into the world of finding peace with your drugs or finding something you were looking for with drugs. How'd you fall into that?
So after I spent 3 months in Longmore for the first time when I was 9, they put me in another children's home. I met some of the kids who were in Longmore in the children's home, and that's when I was introduced to drugs. When I was 9, cones first, then meth. Speed, then meth later on. I just started the drugs from there, but being institutionalised from the ages of 9 to 18, that was just non-stop, no conviction, just kept doing what I was doing. I started breaking the houses, stealing cars, fraud, high-speed chases. I'd be locked up for 6 months, out for a month, back in for 11 months, out for a day, back in for another. I spent 7 birthdays in a row in Longmore, 2 years in Riverbank. And my crime and all my stuff started slowing down when I hit probably the age of 18.
Right.
18, 19.
So what was drugs doing for you? Did you even have a sense this was dangerous for you? Like, it was anyone sort of going, what are you doing? Did you ever think, what am I doing?
No, not at that age, mate. I was just having a hell of a lot of fun. Yeah. Sleeping with whoever I could sleep with. Grab a hold of what I can grab a hold of. I just have a lot of fun.
Yep.
Young and stupid, absolutely young and stupid.
Yeah, no consent.
Unteachable. Everyone else. What do you know? Old people use it. You mean?
Yeah.
I'm just young and stupid.
When did you realise in your life that you became dependent on drugs, that it really got you? Like, at first you're thinking, well, I can try this, I can walk away from it. When did you yourself go, shit, it's got me?
Probably around 19. I was I'd stopped doing the petty crime stuff.
Yep.
I'd buy stolen goods here and there, but I just couldn't do it without drugs. I've moved like literally every 3 months my whole life, right up to the age of 31. I'd go from town to town to town. I think, well, if I just go to Kalgoorlie, right? If I just go to Kalgoorlie, I'll just go up there and work. But when I go up to Kalgoorlie, because of my personality and who I felt comfortable with, everybody that I felt comfortable with was doing what I didn't want to do. So I'd start off with a packet, get to an 8 ball, get to an ounce, and then say, I'm going to go. So then I took off to South Australia. I detoxed, and then I run into somebody else. I start off with a packet, get to an 8 ball, get to an ounce. And if I wasn't on the meth, I'd be on the chuff. And if I wasn't on the chuff, I'd be on the drink. And if I wasn't on the drink, then I'd be on the prescription medication. I needed some sort of chemical or substance to feel normal.
Yep.
But the problem is my tolerance, you start off with 1, then you go to 2, and then 2 goes to 4. And it's just like it's not like a never-ending cycle. So I didn't realise all my childhood stuff, all the pain, all the anger, all the guilt, the shame, I didn't realise all my childhood stuff was having an effect on me, and I was looking for something to try and mask it or cover it.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that you could travel anywhere or go or try to break away, but the kind finds kind. You end up with the people that you ran away from there in another town.
Yeah, like I said, you can take the prisoner out of prison, right? But you've got to get the prisoner out of the prisoner. And when you go to prison, you've got to learn to project an image that people perceive, and what you do in jail and who you've got to become, even if you're a good person. I mean, you've got blokes walking in your slot, you've got standovers, lies, it's intimidation, it's bullying, and all that. And when you live in that environment for 3, 6, 12 months, and then you get out, there's only certain people you feel comfortable around. I mean, you're a geek straight out.
Yep.
You project an image that I perceive that you're normal.
Yep.
And my mum, dad, family holidays, done all this normal stuff. You know, I feel uncomfortable around you.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like you're better than me. So I go hang around people I feel comfortable with, but they're all smashing picks in their arms and smoking pipes and popping pills. So it's not just about rehabilitation, it's reintegration, resocialisation, having to learn about having normal conversations with normal people who do normal stuff. But you never go there because it just brings up all your insecurity, all your crap. So you just go where you feel comfortable because it's easier.
Mate, it makes perfect sense the way you're explaining that. You're going to gravitate towards an area or a group of people that you feel comfortable with. Let's break it down. Your experience in the juvenile detention centres, the boys' homes, whatever we want to call them. They have 100 different names for it. How could that be improved? Yeah, I know. Well, I can say in New South Wales, I know corrective services are trying to make a difference. But you've experienced it. Is there anything that they could have broken the cycle in that environment, or?
Mate, heaps. I mean, I've been part of the system, water the state, you name it, ever since I was a 9, 8-year-old kid. I was flagged. I've sat in front of hundreds of psychiatrists, counsellors, doctors, child psychologists, parole officers, community corrections, and those people don't realise the power that they have with that pen.
Yeah.
And most of the people that I've sat with is just as screwed up as what I am. Even now I have 20 counsellors and I have to interview 200 to get one. But the system, right, they always talk about reducing the recidivism rate. My house, we just don't allow swearing. We don't allow gossip. We don't allow drugs. We don't, you know what I mean? The system itself, now I have a psychiatrist, psychologist, child psychologist. I have 20 counsellors. I have the work life, home life. I have all my own team all on board. And we work together as a team to help people change their life. The system, they're not working together as a team. You know what I mean? Yeah. One does it this way, and then this one does it different, and this one does it different. And so you're just throwing around the system. But when you take away the coping mechanism, you've got to deal with the root. So you picture over here, we've got Banksia Hill, which is a youth detention centre.
Yep.
You're putting kids in a prison culture.
Yeah.
I mean, if we started a new unit 21, and you start by developing the culture, you know what I mean, and honesty and kindness and all this sort of stuff, when you put a person in that and you keep maintaining those rules, the person changes, adapts. If the prisoners and all that bad culture is stronger than the good culture is going to get wiped out. But if the good culture is stronger than the bad culture is going to get wiped out. That's why Shalom works. I've got 160 live-in residents that stay with me between 1 year to 3 years. And I just don't tolerate swearing. I don't tolerate roosters. Yep. I'll chop roosters' heads off and throw them out the street. You know, it's not okay to gossip. It's not okay to talk behind somebody else's back. I mean, in 13 years, I'll have not one police car, not one ambulance. I mean, you want to live under my house. I want love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness.
And the stuff you're talking there, and we'll unpack it in detail. But that's the type of thing that could be brought into the prisons, brought into the detention centres.
100%.
That
change the culture.
Yep.
Change the culture. Set the culture.
We'll talk more on that, but I just want to get a sense, like the crimes. What do you look back at your crimes now? Like, I'm seeing a person that's got the interests of society and come to terms with everything that's gone on. Do you look back at some of the crimes that you've committed? Is there any crime that you've looked back and gone, how I don't even recognise that person?
Most of them.
Yeah.
I mean, from credit card fraud to, using other people's identities, from stealing people's bobcats. I mean, I got a lot of regret. I mean, I stole one bloke's bobcat, had it delivered to the house, and went and sold it on him, and that wiped him and his family out.
Yeah.
I've had ex-girlfriends where she inherited some foreign notes. The foreign notes were nothing, but the value in those, just that because they were her grandfathers, the value to her was not about the money. It was about, well, these are my grandpops.
Yep.
And when I turned my life around 20 years later, I hadn't seen her for 20 years. I actually found her and apologised, and she broke down. She'd been carrying that for 20 years. I've done a lot of stuff that I'm ashamed of.
Yeah.
I've slept with hundreds of prostitutes and broken a house and just done stuff that's just not good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Selling all the drugs and that, it's just not good.
Can you?
I mean, I'm sorry.
No, thanks for your honesty. Have you allowed yourself to forgive yourself? Like, I say this, like, I'm not going to sit here in judgment of anything you've done, looking at the start you had in life. So, have you allowed yourself to forgive?
Yeah, I have. But for me, whenever I do an interview like this, I really don't care what you think of me or your listeners or whoever watches on.
Yeah.
What you see is what you get. If you don't like it, it's your problem. But I'm going to be real, and I've got to lead by example. I mean, if I can talk about stuff, then they can talk about stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, so me, I'm 100% transparent, and what you see is what you get. And have I forgiven myself? Yeah, I've forgiven myself.
Yeah.
Do I regret what I've done? Yeah. Do I regret not having mum and dad? Yeah. Do I regret sleeping by my wife's back and having to tell her and watch her tears fall down her face? Yeah, I regret it. I mean, what I put my kids through. I mean, the times I spent in jail, I regret it. I mean, and I don't want other people to live the life that I've lived. My family, right, is the one that's laying back right now in a prison cell. He doesn't want to be who he is. He wants to change. But the geeks and the other people, they're not listening. And they just keep slapping them in prison. And the prison doesn't fix you, makes them worse. You can class addiction in 5 categories. A, B, C, D, E, and there's 3 types E's. These are the ones we take in Shalom as an E. They hit the brick wall and wants to do whatever it takes to change life. The other E is the one that want to go from an illegal drug to a legal drug. And the third one is what we build prisons for. Yeah. We should be filtrating the 3 E's, putting the ones we build prisons for in prison. The number 2 E's should be going to drug and alcohol courses until they want to change. And the third one should be going to rehab.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we're not. We're putting all 3 E's in the one basket. We're wondering why West Australia's prison population in the last 10 years has gone from 700 to 2,200, and we've got new prisons.
Yeah.
They're obviously doing something wrong.
Look, and we've been looking at a lot on I Catch Killers, and we've done a lot of exploration into the prisons and what goes on. It just seems ridiculous, the recidivism that comes through in Western Australia, New South Wales, right across the country. Like, if it's not working, let's look at how to change it. Now, I know over here, and I've lived over in Perth, I understand, if there's a bad crime, there's big hullabaloo, politicians come out, we're going to get tough on crime, mandatory sentencing, we're going to do this, all sorts of stuff. That's what we get in New South Wales and all the other states across the country. But we've got to try and think a little bit outside the square. If people get sent to prison, that's their punishment. They're being taken away from society. Is it not in the interest of everyone that if someone goes into prison, it won't work for everyone, but if on the off chance you can make that person a better person when they come out of prison, I think everyone's a winner.
Yeah, well, I just had a fella 2 weeks back and spent 14 months in Shalom. He's only a young fella.
Yep.
Got caught up doing something that he shouldn't have done. Got done with nearly 2 ounces of meth. He couldn't give up the person who done it because of the repercussions, which I won't go into.
Yeah.
But he spent 14 months in Shalom. His life changed. About 2 weeks ago, they put him in prison for 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to undo what we've just done. He's genuinely, sincerely remorseful, completely changed, owned everything. But after 14 months in prison, instead of letting him spend another 14 months in prison, they step him in jail for 3 years.
Well, I've seen some what I consider informed judges, magistrates or whatever, that look a little bit deeper, and in a situation like that, they might make an exception and go, well, okay, the book said we got to send him back in, or the law says send him there for another 14 months, but let's look at his life. That's where I cringe, where people say mandatory sentence, because in all the times I was in the cops, I didn't see one offence that was identical to the other. Like, your upbringing's different to the other person and the circumstances. So it's not one punishment fits all. But I also speak to, Peter, I speak to victims of crime. So, these are people that armed robberies where their loved ones have been murdered, a kid murdered, all sorts of things. And one person, I raise him quite often because he's a bit of a mentor to me, and I admire the stuff that he's done. Ken Marslew, his son was murdered. He was working, 17 years old, working in a Pizza Hut. Armed robbers come in, they shot him in the back of the head with a shotgun, killed him. Ken was absolutely fuming. He was angry. Every emotion you could think a parent would have in those circumstances. He wanted revenge. He wanted to see him punished. He wanted the death penalty. He wanted everything to occur. We're now 20 years down the track, and you speak to Ken, he goes, I still hold that anger. I still hold that anger. But what's going to happen if I hold that anger? It's going to destroy me. If they make prisons, the whole system, work to make the person better when they come out, that's not getting soft on crime, that's getting smart on crime, and it's helping victims because there'll be less victims. And it's a simple philosophy, but I think touching on what you've been saying, I think you'd agree. It makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, what doesn't make sense also in WA is that if you've got a criminal record, they've actually blanketed where you can't get into the prison system anymore. It's literally any person with a criminal record. I was at one of the prisons here, Acacia Prison, from 2005 to 2010, 3 days a week as a volunteer. But in 2010, they just thought, nah. Lived experience of people who actually genuinely, sincerely have turned their life around do have a lot to give.
Well, you should, and get in touch with me. I can source it if we need to, because over in New South Wales, I've seen a lot of people come here that have been in situations like yours, done time in prison, and they're opening their minds up to bringing them back and working in. In fact, a month or so ago, I had a bloke that had done 5 years, that then ended up working as a welfare officer in the prison and seeing people, the prisoners, that he was sharing a cell with. And he's come in as working for corrective services. That's down in Victoria. So, yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, and look, lived experience. Because half the time, if you're in that environment, you got to bridge up. You can't show weakness, and you're not going to listen to, as you call them, a geek or a straighty 180 come in and say this is how you should live your life. But if you walk in the door and go, well, this is what's happened to me, and this is my story, and this is what I think you do, people will sit and listen. It just makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I'm actually a geek now. I mean, a geek to me is like a normal person, a productive member of society, free from influences of drugs and substances, and do normal stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, so I am actually a geek, but it's the image like these fellas who's on the end of these cameras here, they look like geeks.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah. I know what you're saying, but to get to those people to listen, lived experience is something. And being a geek, as you describe yourself, I had a mate that was in the bikies for a long time, and he's code, and I respected it to a degree. I'm an outlaw, and I don't have a job. I don't pay taxes. I'm a bikie. I wear a 1% on the patch, and that's what I do. He changed his life around, turned his life around. He contacted me years and years later and said, "You know what, mate? It's not bad being a civilian, working, paying taxes, being part of society." And
that's good.
I love seeing those turn around because he just did not see it at the time. But
I love it.
Okay, with the drugs and the time in prison, how long did you spend in prison all up?
So I say to people, right, that I spent 26 years in prison.
Yep.
Even when you're not in prison, you're still in prison.
Okay. Yep. I understand where you're coming from. Yep.
Even though from the age of 9, I was literally, my whole childhood was incarcerated. From the age of 9 to 18, and my first jail lagging was in 1991. And then I've made the rounds of all the prisons down here in Perth, anyway, Kazza, Bunbury, Carnet, Warraloo, Acacia. Even when you're not in prison, you're still in prison. You can, like I say, you can take the prisoner out of prison, but then you've got to get the prisoner out of the prison. I've never added up the exactly time I've done.
Yep.
But it wasn't until 2000 and 2002 on my last lagging is where my life actually broke free and I started to change.
Yeah. It's an interesting concept, and I haven't heard it put that way, but the way you've articulated it explains it very well, that it doesn't matter whether you're serving a 12-month sentence here and then you're out for 6 months and doing 18 months. You're in prison. You're
in prison.
You're just outside the gates at one stage. Yeah.
Mate, you do a lagging, right, and you hit the brick wall, ends in a big finale, you get 3 years. Back then, they have you only do 2/3, get a third in remission. Yep. So you only do it really a year. And so you detox off of the drugs. Your family can start seeing you change. You start putting meat back on. You tell them everything they want to hear on the visits. You're not using drugs. You're not getting alcohol. But when you get out, mate, as soon as you get out of jail, you celebrate the fact that you're doing the lag, and the first thing you do is you go get on and you have a shot, or you go and have a beer, and then one beer turns into two, and then someone rocks up with some gear, and then you have a shot. Second you get out of jail, they celebrate the fact that they've done a lagging. And that's why at Shillong we don't take people straight from jail unless they do full time. They ring me up and say, can we come to Shillong? I say, yeah. When you do your full time, walk out the front gate, go to Outcare, don't drink, don't use drugs, and give me a call and I'll send a helicopter to pick you up.
Yep.
I mean, it's like they go out and get on first. But the second you stick that pick in your arm, mate, or you smoke that pipe, you pop that pill, it's like getting on a train. Even though you're not in prison, you're in prison, you've just stuck it. And the train, it starts picking up speed, it starts getting faster and faster, and you know that you're about to hit the brick wall, end up back in jail again. And then one day you look up and all the doors are shut, no conductors, no people, bang, it hits the brick wall, you're back in jail again. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's the prison culture. You take that prison culture with you when you get out, and you hang around that prison culture, because now that prison culture becomes your standard norm, and you feel more comfortable around those types of people than you do the other types of people. You know what I mean? You've got to get the prison out of the prisoner. If you don't get the prison out of the prisoner, it ain't going to change.
Yeah, makes sense. Was there any time during that, and we'll lead into when you actually decided, no, this is it, I'm turning my life around. Did you have any false starts during that period? Like, did you come out of prison one time and say, right, I'm going to do it right? And if you did and you failed, tell us how that played out.
Oh, mate, there's heaps of times where you get out and you go start work as a tyre fitter, and you get a job and you think you're doing the right thing, but I used to look for the acknowledgement of my mum or my dad or somebody, oh, you're doing a good job, Peter. But no matter how hard I tried, all they did was criticise. They never said you're doing a good job. And so I thought, stuff you. And a lot of people that I deal with, they want the acknowledgement, hey, that they're doing well, but they don't get it and they stuff it, so they just go back and do what they shouldn't do. I could rattle off heaps of times, you know, but there wasn't anyone there to encourage her. And even now, you're not going to get that encouragement. You know, you don't got to look for the acknowledgement of your peers. You just got to do it. You know.
If you strip the layers back with the upbringing that you've had and the environments that you grew up in, and so many other people, I would imagine when you talk, you don't get that encouragement. There'd have to be this overwhelming feeling of self-loathing, and you just...
Yeah, self-loathing, hate yourself, hate everybody, blame everybody else for why you are like you are. It's your mum's fault, it's your dad's fault, it's your brother's fault, it's your uncle's fault, it's the cop's fault. It's everyone else's fault, but it's not my fault. That's why everyone's like that, you know?
Yeah. Is that start of the process where you've got to take ownership and go, well, hold it, it's I can blame this person, that person, my upbringing, but there's one person that control what I'm doing, and that's me?
Yeah, but you've got to come to that point where you allow, because people try to tell you, it could be your mum, could be your dad, but I'm not going to listen to them. Their words are like water on a windscreen. It could be people who've got their lives together. It could be your grandmother giving you a lecture or whatever, Gran.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You just don't listen. There's a certain time you've got to come to a certain point where you will listen. And there's 2 times in my life that I know that if somebody had listened and grabbed my hand, I would have changed. So because of the life that I've lived, I use all of my lived experience to help me to do what it is that I do today. When I was 9, laying in that prison cell, and I'm rocking my pillow side to side, crying, saying, please, if you let me out now, I promise I'll behave. I know that if somebody had grabbed my hand that day, that experience is enough for me. I would have turned my life around. Yeah. It was different than any other experience that I had. And another one when I was in 1988, if somebody had reached out and grabbed my hand then, I know that I would have changed. And they're the ones that I look for. And the ones I take into Shillong, I worked out a method of how to find and separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, the serious from the not serious.
What?
And go on, sorry.
What was the thing about those 2 examples, as the 9-year-old and in 1988? What were the 2 things that, and you speak so strongly about it, and I'm convinced what you're saying. Where were you at in that stage of your life that would have made the difference?
when you hit the brick wall, it ends in a big finale. The last thing you do is go to rehab, or your brain automatically, when you hit the brick wall, you ring your mum, you ring your grandma, or you ring your uncle or your wife, and they always take you in. I hit the brick wall. I was at the bottom of myself. I had no one to ring.
Yeah.
But I had a thought in my head, I can't do this anymore. I want to change. And I felt that thought go from my head into my heart, and it was like a seed of life. Someone, give me this opportunity now, mate, and I'll grab it with two hands.
Yeah.
And there's only been twice in my life that I've had that. But no one was there. No one was there to grab my hand. And that's what I do. I look for those who are at that point. My family are laying in prison cells. They're sticking picks in their arm. They're who I grew up with. That's why I do what I do. I'm looking for those ones who come to the point and say, I can't do it anymore. I want to change. That's a seed. I can water that seed. I can make that seed grow.
You want to be that hand for those people.
I want to be that hand, and I want to raise up lots of other hands. Not just me.
Yeah.
I'm nearly hopefully finished at Shalom soon. I can hand it over to somebody, and hopefully they can just keep doing it, and I can do. I want to make a difference.
Okay, let's talk about the time when you've gone. Okay, I'm out of this lifestyle. What was that point? You've talked two examples where if the right circumstances might have made the difference. When, how, and what happened?
Yeah, well, to do that, I'm going to talk about faith. Is that all right?
Yeah, by all means.
No, I'm going to talk about Christianity. So I didn't grow up going to church. I used to, every time I was in Longmore and Riverbank, and I was locked up, you used to have to pay $2 to go to an activity, and we used to have these Christian mob come in.
Yeah.
But they had to play games with you and all this stuff. And I remember going 7 years in Longmore, then I went to Riverbank. I got 18 months one hit in Riverbank. And one night this Christian group come in and they chucked on these videos called Crossing the Switchblade. And it was this story about this fellow in America who grew up in the Bronx on the streets, and his story was like mine, And you can see on the inside he wanted to be a good person. And then this scrawny-looking preacher comes down and basically just says, God loves you and all this stuff. But I showed on the video how he used to be this bats, gums, like all this real bad person. And then this scrawny preacher told him God loves him. And then it shows him at the end of the movie how his life changed, He stopped hanging around the Mormons or the gangs and it's like, and I remember going back to my cell and I got on my knees. It was the 18th of May, 1986. I got on my knees and I said, God, if you're real, and I bawled my eyes out, mate, if you could change his life, you could change mine. I'm telling you, I had experience with him and I know that he's real, but then when I got out of jail, I just went, whatever, and just forgot him, just kept living the life. And then in fast forward to 2000, so that was 1988. So 86, sorry. So fast forward to 2001, I'd done 3 years jail, got out of jail, and I thought to myself, I'm going to sell drugs and guns for a living, and I'm not going to do crime or buy hot goods. That way I keep some of the heat off. And so I was married with my wife. I've got 3 kids, 2 to my wife. My son Peter was 4, other son was 1. I got jailed just after he was born, a week after he was born. But I got out of jail and I thought I'm going to sell drugs for legit. And so I just started selling 8 balls. And within 3 months, mate, I went from 8 balls to ounces and ounces to pounds. And then up getting to 2.5 kilos of meth I was selling a week. And I went really, really big, really quick. I'm a nobody. I'm just a common, everyday, pathetic-looking crim. But I'm telling you, I went from the bottom of the food chain to the top of the food chain. I had a big factory full of cars. My house was bugged. My car was bugged. I was suffering psychosis, 2.5 kilos of meth. I'd sold a box of dynamite to this dude, and I reckon he was an informant. Anyway, next day, coppers come to my house. I had TRG coming through the front, back, shotguns, bulletproof vest, helicopter over the roof, and I was doing 16 days no sleep. I had my missus laying on the floor with a shotgun to her head with my with my 2-year-old kid with her in her arms and stuff, and I just hated me. I really hated me. I hated everything that I stood for, everything that I'd done. And I got done with a pound of pop, couple of handguns. And she got done with a couple of pot. She got handguns and all this on a record. She's never done nothing wrong. She's a country girl,
Yeah.
But anyway, we both got out on bail. And I've never played sports and stuff, like I said, but she enrolled my son in this thing called grasshopper soccer.
Yep.
And them days I used to have diamond rings on every finger. I was like 60 kilo, big beard, looked like Skeletor, absolute goose. But she enrolled him in this grasshopper soccer. I'd got bailed out. And then the next day I'm over at the park where we were staying, and I took my kid over, because country girls, that's what they do. I've never played sport. But I go over the road and there's all these geeks there, and the grasshopper's like a bit like Oz kick introduction to footy.
Yeah, I understand.
And the deal was that all these dads, these geeks, were sitting there in a circle with their kid, and if the kid kicked the ball through the dad's legs, and the dad had to roll around like an idiot on the ground going kuch kuch koo, you know? And I'm thinking, man, this is not cool. I'm fried. And then this kid kicks his ball through his dad's legs, and he did kuchi kuchi koo on the ground. Yep. And then the other idiot done it, and I'm thinking, if my boy kicks that ball through my legs, mate, I'm out of here. And he kicked the ball through my legs, and I just turned my back on my son, and I walked off, and I started bawling my eyes out. I would have given anything to make my son feel normal.
Yeah.
I hated me. I hated how I smelled. I hated the environment I put him through. I hated that we'd sleep in it and wake up lunchtime when they weren't at school. You know what I mean? And here I am, I work off my butt. And when I walked off from my son, I remember I just said, I can't do it anymore. God, if you're real, I knew he was real because I got nuked when I was 16, 17. I said, God, if you're real, I need your help. And I'm bawling my eyes out, go to the missus. I said, woman, and I called my wife a woman. I said, woman, you got to look after the boy. And for me, that was the turning point, I'm telling you.
Yep.
Really, really weird stuff started happening. She went over and looked after the kid, and I get out in my car, and I'm going driving around doing my stuff. And it's like from that day forward, I couldn't get on. Every time I tried to score drugs, the doors were shut. I went to go pick up some gear off the Italian fellow I was getting all my stash from. And there's all these bloody coppers there. They'd raided his van. Anyway, so I'm driving around trying to do what I'm doing, and then I started hearing his voice in my head saying, Peter, I want you to follow me. I want you to follow me. And I'm thinking, oh, this is a bit weird. There's no one in my car, you know what I mean? And I'm driving along, and there's a car in front, and it would tap on its brake lights, and I'd see a few flashes, and I hear this voice in my head, Peter, I want you to follow me. And so I follow this car. It goes left, right, and then it pulls up at a park, and the car just drove off, and I'm sitting there in my car looking around, and then I look over in the park over there, and there's a mum and a dad with their kids playing in the car in the park, having a picnic.
Yep.
And I heard it clear as day, this voice again. It says, Peter, I'm offering you this. And I just sat in my car and I cried. I've never had a picnic.
Yeah.
I've never given my kids a picnic. When I take my kids to the park, I send them on the swings, and I have a shot in the car while I'm throwing up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want that. Yeah. That's everything I want. I want to be normal. And then I sit in my car and have a big sook again for a while, and then I drive off, and I'm driving it, and it's like, mate, I want you to follow me. I want you to follow me. And there's another car tapping. So I'm following this car, went left, went right, went left, and then it pulls up at an extra brand new display home, and it drives off, and I'm looking at this home, and then I heard this voice, Peter, I'm offering you this. A brand new home was a place to call home. All I ever wanted was a place to call home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember sitting there bawling my eyes out, looking at this house. I'm telling you, something weird's going down. And for 2-3 days, all this weird stuff. And I'm telling my missus, I said, something weird's going down. And she goes, I thought it was a gear, because I've been spent 2 days up in roof cavities of houses thinking little people down there.
Yeah, psychosis, drug-induced psychosis. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been over the park at 1 o'clock in the morning with a chainsaw. If you don't come down, I'm chopping you down. Yeah, it's like people have followed me.
Some of the great moments in life.
Oh, mate, I've been in nut waters, back to front, gun on, poo down the leg, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like little people.
Yeah.
And and the missus thinking, well, you're going through all this loopy stuff. And I thought, right, well, I'll stuff them. I reckon it's you mob the coppers, you're playing with me freaking head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the coppers, I found the listening devices drilled in my brickwork and all this other stuff he's done to me. And I'm thinking, right, I'll stuff you mob up. So I left my car and I got on my bike, and I was on this VN 1500 Cruiser, a brand new bike, full tank of juice, you know, and I got the missus to open the door. And she opens the door and I booted out this thing, and I cut through 200 metres of dirt on this 1500, and I lost whoever it was who might have been following me, or thought I did. Yeah. And then I'm on this VN 1500, and I'm out near a place called Nearabup in Perth, which is like, and I'm on this bike, and I'm hearing his voice, I want you to follow me, I want you to follow me. And I think, oh my God. So I pull over the side of the road, I rip the helmet apart. How do you buggers get a speaker in there that does that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
And then I couldn't find nothing. So I stuck the Velcro back in there. And then I'm booting past the Nearabut Roadhouse. And I'm sitting at about 110 or whatever. And it was a standard bike, standard pipe, standard everything. But then this thing started, the handlebars started going, brum, 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 and they're tuning, and they go, ah, and the bike and the shutter and your balls bouncing on the tank.
Yep.
And it was like the most surreal, perfect instinct experience you'd ever get on a bike. You know?
Yeah.
And I remember going, yeah! And then I went, bum, 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 bum. It died on the side of the road, and I'm thinking, oh, wait, what have you done to it? Because my car done the same thing before. And then I pulled the seat off, I pulled the plastic tanks off. I'm looking for that motor that you fellas have put in there.
It's normally normally when we've connected the electrical wrong that your car breaks down or the bike breaks down. But anyway.
Yeah, but I'm still looking for whatever you put in there to bloody play with my head. And I couldn't find anything. And I was even thinking that you, Bob, right, you had me on surveillance and that you were filming me at one stage. I reckon this is psychosis. Let's loop out a looper. And so you were filming me as I'm going through all this stuff with the house, the kids, the park, and and you're going to use it as an educational video to show people this is what happens when you use drugs.
Yeah,
That's one of the thoughts.
what you're talking, I've heard it. I've heard it at the time when people are saying that to me. I've heard it like you reflecting on it, going, "Shit, well, this was what was going through my mind." So, all up with that.
I just want to tell you this bit, right? I'm on this bike. I get on the side of the road, and you asked me where it is when I changed my life. It started with my son at the soccer.
Yep.
Yeah. Then I'm on the 3 days of someone offering me everything I wanted. Then I'm on this blooming bike, and I get on the other side of the road because I had to hitch back to the roadhouse, and I've put my thumb out, and there was this young couple that stopped, and I got in the back seat of their car, and we started driving along. They had this music playing, and out of the blue, this young fella turns around to me and says, "Mate, I feel like God's telling me to tell you that he loves you and he has a plan and a purpose for your life."
Yep.
Out of the blue, left field. And I started crying my eyes out. Said, "Bro, let me out your car." I got out in the middle of nowhere, chucked my jacket, my leather jacket on the side of the bollard, went in the bush, had a sook. And I come back out and I stuck my thumb out again. And I started hitching. And then this black F-250 pickup truck pulls up. It was matte black, flat tray black. Looked like a Kiwi dude. Had tattoos on the half side of his face, black ponytail hair. And he says, "Bro, is that your bike back there?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I will go back and pick it up, eh?" And I said, "Nah, bro, something weird's going down. I just got to get home." So I got in this dude's car, and we started driving towards the roadhouse. And he turns around to me and he says, "Mate, I feel like I've got to tell you something." I said, "Yeah, what's that?" And he says, "God's telling me to tell you that he loves you and he has a plan and a purpose for your life." And that's the second person in space of 5K. I bawled my eyes out. He drove me to the petrol station. I remember walking in to the petrol station. I pulled all my gold jewellery off, all my chains off, all my watch, and I threw everything in the bin. Yeah. Somebody somewhere was offering me a life that I only ever dreamed of. I just wanted to be a good person, a normal person.
Yeah.
And I wanted what they're offering. And then I rang my missus up and said, "You got to come pick me up. Bike's broken down. Something weird's going down." She goes, "I've got to pick the kids up from school." So I walked out in the highway, stuck my thumb out, and then this old granny pulls up. And she was in a Datsun 200B, Datto, platinum white hair. And when she spoke, her false teeth were flapping her mouth. And she goes, "I don't normally pick hitchhikers up, son, but you look different." And so I got in this granny's car and we started driving. And I got 3K up the road and she turns around to me and she said, "Honey, I feel that God is telling me to tell you that he loves you and has a plan and a purpose for your life, that your life's not a mistake." And I just cried all the way. She drove me all the way to Bayswater.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how my life. I had 3 strangers in the space of not even 15 Ks.
Well,
and then I had a big full-on encounter after that.
Peter, that's heavy and fascinating. And you said, is it all right to talk religion? I don't consider myself a religious person, but I'm a spiritual person. I think in some way. I just look at that, the story you've told us there, and of course you're right to talk about it. It's your story. That's what changed you. Whatever was working there, and they say God acts in mysterious ways. I don't know. I can't I can't rebut what you're saying, and if that's worked for you, and it's when you break it down. It's 3 people showing you some kindness and consideration, and it's sort of going, look, people do care about me. So it's factored into where your life was at that moment. So, it's fascinating if that's what turned your life around.
Yeah, well, I don't believe you're a fart in the wind. I reckon when you die,
Yeah.
I reckon you're going either up or down. There's either good or bad. And that's what we deal with. It's just like there's just one wants you to do drugs and one doesn't want you. One, there's just a good and a bad,
Yeah.
mate. And,
Yeah.
if the Church of God was like Hungry Jack, should be chockers, but how do you know which one's which?
Well, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about your life from that point in time and the work that you do in Shallum House, how you set it up, what it's about, what that must have been your dream at the time. This is what I want to do and what you're doing. So I'm looking forward to our chat on the second part.
Me too, mate.
Cheers.